Let's see if it's going to stay live. I guess third time's the charm. This is my third time going live, trying to go live to tell you guys what's going on. So, okay, right now it's staying firm. So I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened to me and Miss Faithful. Miss Faithful has, God has placed her in my life to witness the things that God has been doing, right? So I want to tell you guys what had happened a year ago. This is another, there's been several. There was the first event. Now here's this next one. Okay. So this is what happened. A year ago, um, I, after God told me my ministry was forgiveness, that I had to tell the people that. And if I didn't, he'd get somebody that would, right? And so it became serious. And I started telling anyone that would listen, like if you were within the sound of my voice, I was going to tell you about forgiveness. Okay. I don't know if y'all are there, but I'm telling you the story. Something that happened with me and Miss Faithful about a year ago. Okay. So with that being said, after after my stepmother died, my dad was stricken with grief, and he got on drugs, and some bad people in the community had took over his home. It was a really bad situation. Even to the point where, like, I had to do the intervention type of stay away from my dad. You know what I mean? That intervention, like if you do drugs, you can't have nothing to do with me, right? Kind of intervention. So I hadn't seen my dad for months. I want to say months when this happened. Okay. So the night before, this was a year ago, but the night before, I went to sleep and I had a dream. And in my dream, my stepmom came to me in the dream, or it was her voice. It wasn't her, but I promise you it was distinctly her voice. So she called me in the dream and said, "Your dad needs you. There's something he needs you to do." And in my dream, I'm saying to her, "What? Put him on the phone. What does he want me to do?" Right? And she was like, he's busy right now. I can't put him on the phone, right? And then I woke up, right? So the rest of that day, I went through the day, just feeling like, what was she trying to say? What was she trying to say to me? Right? But then at the end of the day, when I got off work and I was driving home, I then went, oh my God, forget what she was trying to say. She's dead, and my dad should not be with her. You get what I'm saying? So then at that point, I start like zooming to my dad's house, who I haven't been to his home in a while at that point, right? So I'm zooming to his house thinking that I'm going to get there and find my 70-year-old father dead on the floor. Okay. So when I get there, I knock on the door. Now, this is important. My dad lived in a ranch style house on a corner street. So the driveway was in the back of the house because it was on the corner. You get what I'm saying? So no one ever used the front door because the driveway was on the back of the house. Okay. So, um, then, so that's what you got to see. So there's a garage, sliding glass doors, right? I go to the sliding glass doors because the garage was closed, right? I bang on the sliding glass doors, and my dad comes to the door and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm crying. I'm like, "I had this dream," and I didn't want to tell him about the dream because he really, really loved his wife, right? And I loved her. I promised her in life that I would never call her my stepmom. That's how much I loved her. Like, I did her whole funeral and everything. Like, I loved her. She was my mom too, you know? So I didn't want to tell him about the dream because it involved her, and he was already in a downward spiral. I hadn't spoke to him in a long time. But he was like, I said, I had a dream, and my dad has always been that kind of person. He knows God is real, right? So he was like, sit down and tell me this dream. And like, he grabbed a stool and said, sit your butt down and tell me this dream. And so I sat down and I began to tell him the dream, right? But while I was telling him the dream, I went, I've been telling everybody what God told me about forgiveness, but I haven't told you, Daddy. That's what she wanted me to do, is tell you how forgiveness is the key, that Jesus came to so that we would like he brought forgiveness itself, the concept of forgiveness itself into the world, right? So I began to tell him, my dad, everything that happened, and as soon as I got to the part where I said, Daddy, it's more to it. They didn't tell us, but forgiveness is part of salvation. You got to forgive in order to be forgiven. As soon as I say that, remember I told y'all it was the garage sliding glass doors. So when you go through the sliding glass doors, you look that way, and there was a door to go into the garage. There was a screen door on it, and the garage was closed, and that door was closed. So as soon as I said that, the door, my dad, I should run downstairs so y'all could see my daddy. Okay. At that moment, the door flung open, right? Like, there was no wind because the garage was closed. There was no wind because there was a screen door. And Daddy said that he had locked that door. So as soon as I said, they lied to us, Daddy, there's more to salvation. You got to forgive in order to be forgiven. That door flung open, right? Me and my dad both looked like that, right? We both looked. And at that moment, the Spirit of God came into me, and there was no fear, okay? It was like I jumped up and I ran to the door and I slammed it and went, no! Then, at that point, remember, I'm a daddy's little girl. Like, no, for real. Like, my dad would beat you up and the world up, but like, I've never got a whooping. That tells you, right? I'm black, ain't never got a butt whooping. You feel me? But that's how close me and my daddy is. You know what I mean? So long story short, when I said that, I slammed the door and I said, no. And then my dad stood up, pulled out a knife, y'all. My dad pulled out a knife, opened the knife, and then said, I ain't forgiving SHIT, right? I'm going to take a MF to HE double hockey sticks with me, is what my daddy said, okay? And then now that's crazy because my daddy don't never do no stuff like that. Like, my daddy barely even cuss in front of me. You feel what I'm saying? This is my daddy. So then I say, then he says, I think it's time for you to leave. What? Did my daddy just put me out the house after not seeing me for so long? So I then go, I ain't going nowhere until I tell you what God said. So I finished the story, told him what God said, right? I left his house crying. I got on the phone with Faithful. Faithful can vouch for everything that I'm saying. I got on the phone with Faithful. And at that point, I'm on the phone with Faithful, and I'm like, I'm telling her what just happened about the door flying open, about how Gran told me to go tell him about forgiveness. I don't know if y'all hearing any of this, because I'm seeing people say, hey, but I'm telling you about a story. So let me know if y'all getting the story, or is it messing up like everything else? Because the end result, I'm going to explain all that to you. Okay, so anyways, this is what happened next. So I'm on the phone with Faithful, and Faithful is praying and I'm crying, okay? So Faithful's praying, I'm crying, right? And now mind you, me and Faithful pray together. That's what we do, right? But while she's praying, I want to interrupt her to tell her stop. Like, fear, dread was all over me, okay? Dread was all over me, right? So picture her praying, I'm crying, and I promise you guys, I'm telling y'all the truth. Okay? At that point, I'm like, remember I told you guys there's a ceiling fan right over my bed, right? So I then finally get to the house, get back to my own home. Faithful is praying, right? I'm then this is the ceiling fan. I'm like this, just staring at the ceiling fan, like in total fear, okay? And it was like, how do I say this? I could hear the most sinister voice. It was my own voice, but it was sinister. Like, it was like, keep it up. That's exactly how it was talking. Keep it up. You notice how every time somebody talk about forgiveness, I get rid of them. Keep it up. Malcolm X, no, he said Martin Luther King, dead. Gandhi, dead. He said Emmett Till, dead. He said he said the Kennedys. And then he went, oh yeah, when Malcolm started talking forgiveness, I got rid of him too. Now I'm literally like I am in type fear all over me, right? Then I heard, like right at that moment, I could hear Faithful. Like before then, I couldn't hear Faithful. She was praying the whole time this was going on, but I was crying and doing this, right? And right when Miss Faithful said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Right then, it was like God took back over and he said, you're doing it again, baby. Just how he said it too. You're doing it again. You're fighting. You don't have to fight. I told you not to fight. He said, all I told you to do was talk. Don't fight. Just talk. Right? So I then, at that moment, all the fear flushed away. It was like I could feel God saying, don't fear no one but me. Don't fear. Do what I said and fear nothing is what I felt him. Like it just melted away. Remember, I told you I went from to, At that point, I said to Miss Faithful, I'm okay, Miss Faithful. God told me I was fighting and that I needed to stop fighting. That I don't have any. Only time you feel fear is when you fight. And he told me to just talk, right? So I want to read to you. Let's hopefully it stay live while I read to you. But at that point, like I said, I knew that was God telling us not to fear this time. View this time like, like picture if you got siblings, right? That your sibling about to get a butt whooping, right? Because he said, I came and I'm going to set brother against brother. Father against son, mother against daughter, right? That's what he meant by this. So picture you got a brother, right? And your brother about to get his butt whooped by daddy, right? You don't jump in the middle of what daddy and the brother doing, right? Nor do you start trying to beat up the brother for daddy, right? Daddy would be mad like, did you just put your hands on my child? You know what I mean? So you don't try to whoop your brother for the daddy, right? No, you sit back, shut up, sit down, stay your butt in the house. That's the way God had always, kind of said this to me. Okay. So he wanted me to come back live. Actually, I was on the phone with Rose and Miss Faithful again. And Miss Rose said I should tell you guys the importance of not feeling fear. So picture daddy about to whoop your brother's butt, right? But it ain't your place to fight it. The only one you fight, it ain't your place to fear it. That's what I meant. Sorry. Don't fear it. Okay, don't fear, no fear. Get rid of it, right? It's just your brother. Your brother just tripping like he always tripping, right? Daddy gonna deal with him. I'ma be, I ain't trying to get my butt kicked. So I'm gonna do what daddy said and I'm gonna get out the way. You see what I'm saying? So I'm about to read to you what Miss Faithful was reading to me. And also, God told me to read you something else as well. So let's hurry up before the internet. And that's another thing. I hope today showed you that it is not YouTube censoring us. Our fight is not against flesh and blood. It's against the principalities of darkness and high places that rule this place. Right? So know this. We know who it is. But we are doing our Father's business. We don't want a whooping too. I don't want a whooping. And I'm more scared of him than I am of anything else, right? He said the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. So let's hurry up and get this. So I'm about to read to you. Let's go, 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 go. And it's okay. I'm going to explain to you. Okay, here we go. This is what I want you to read during this time. Oh, no, don't do that. Okay, this is what I want you to read during this time, okay? The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not lack nothing. This is the mind frame that you have to be in this time. Give yourself over completely and utterly to God, like in love for God, like as you would for your father, like give yourself over to him, okay? And it says, I shall lack nothing. Right? You will lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. Hallelujah. He guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. See, I always make this joke, but it's the truth. They don't want me in no concentration camp. They don't want me there. Because I know me. Everybody coming to God. Because I'm going to pour out so much love in the midst of my enemies. Oh, I really am. So he prepares a table for you in the presence of your enemies, right? So you ain't got to worry about nothing, okay? Then it says, you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My husband is here, okay? So fear nothing. In all thy ways, acknowledge God. Do what he told you. Stay home, right? Stay in the house, okay? Fear nothing. Everything's gonna be okay. And don't be arrogant about nothing either. Be humble in all your ways, okay? Everything is okay. But keep pressing forward, because today you got a chance to see who really censoring us. I love you guys. Stay safe and fearless.